Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt
And
Roast.
I'm Jessica Bun Bun.
Let's talk about Severance and goats. Brr. Oh,
All
no.
right.
We have been wanting to do a video about the goats on Severance for a very, very long time. I know you in particular are quite a fan of goats.
Oh, I love goats. If I could have a goat pet, I would have a goat pet. I don't care if they eat a hole through my couch.
About to say.
I'm already a rabbit owner and she's already eaten a hole through my ottoman and the back of my bed. I am completely fine with that. Come in, you have yourself a meal, goat.
Okay, well, you know what? That can be for you. I do not need a goat eating me out of house and home. But on Severance, goats have been a part of this world
Mhm.
since season one.
Yeah.
But this season, especially if you watch this past episode, they have taken on a whole new life of their own.
They absolutely have.
There's a specific department, mammalian nurturable. I mean, I actually said that correctly. Okay, but they have a new department. Yay! High fives. No, they have a new department that is specifically all about them. There's something that is going on here. So this video is going to be all about why are these goats there? What do they mean? What does their environment represent? What are these people who are caring for them? None of this is just here for frivolity, for, Dan Erickson and Ben Stiller to do something weird. Like, there is purpose here.
Now, before this season started, they did have the cast come out and do like we're debunking fan
Yeah.
theories. And the first theory that they tried to debunk, and take it with a grain of salt here,
Yeah.
because we always have people come out and be like, oh no, we're not doing this. But then, they are, because they can't come out and be like, oh, you got us,
Yeah.
and ruin the show, right? So
Yeah.
they have come out and debunked the theory that the goats are there because people are being cloned. They have
Yeah.
said that that is not what is happening.
So we're going to take that with a little bit of a grain of salt, but we're also going to
Right.
take that with the understanding that that has been said. So if this is
Yes.
not pure cloning, what is going on here?
Right.
Before we go forward into that, though, be sure to hit that subscribe button because we are here all season long on Severance with reviews, more theories, all sorts of great discussions. We hope that you join us. Imagine us handing you over a pineapple here to encourage you to stay and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss anything else.
Absolutely. Thank you so much to everyone who has subscribed.
Thank you. We really, really appreciate that. Okay. And starting off here with goats and just the mere notion of cloning. Okay, so if this is not cloning, what exactly is going on? This actually goes a little bit into something that we talked about in the most recent review, which is this idea that a lot of the people who are in higher level positions at Lumen are not necessarily literal descendants of Kier. I mean, maybe Helena is, maybe her dad is, but a lot of them have some sort of either Kier's personality traits or Kier juice, as I kind of like to call it,
Yep.
that kind of helps them to think and see the world in a specific way, where they're able to retain a part of themselves. So they're not a clone. They don't have the same exact DNA as Kier or anyone before them, but they also still have his way of thinking. So it's a way to sort of present people as normal when in reality they are not normal at all.
Yeah, and they're all part of Kier in that way. They're all
Yeah.
thinking like him. We saw that painting of the four severed, people, and
Yeah.
then Kier standing over them with this sword and this whole group of people behind him also with swords.
Yeah.
It feels very much like he is trying to create his own sort of, we'll call it community,
Yeah.
where everybody thinks like him.
They want to have a like-minded community that they can also hide in plain sight
Right.
so that it doesn't look exactly like it's as sinister as it really actually is.
Right.
So here is how it goes back then to the goats, because anytime you're doing an experiment like this, I mean, unfortunately, we have seen this through history time and time again that animals often bear the brunt of a lot of that. So what I think is going on then with just the goats themselves is that they are not clones of each other. But what I think is probably going on is that you had, let's say, Kier goat, the OG goat, the master goat, if you will, that there are elements of that goat that has been passed along through a lot of these other goats across generations. And I think Lumen's probably playing around to a certain extent with like, okay, what sort of personality traits can we put in this goat? What can we do in that goat? Like, with Mark and Gemma, it's sort of like, okay, what traits of Gemma's does Mark know that we can put into her that will be useful to us long term? I think where this is all ultimately going is Lumen probably wants to create people, whether it's for a dangerous or mundane purpose. I tend to think it's dangerous, but they want to make people who are still themselves, but fully loyal, incapable of rebellion, incapable of doing anything other than what they want. And their template for that over time is the goats. That's how they're sort of kind of setting the stage for what they're going to be doing with humans later on.
I had wondered if the goats are just like a straight smokescreen, that the people that are there in this group of people that are hiding as a goat, that are studying the goats, that they think that that's what their job is and that that's what they're there to do. But really everything is being tested on them, and they don't really know that they're the test subjects. They think that they're in charge of the test subjects. And that's why we have these conversations where they're very protective of the program and the goats and what's going on, or show me your belly. Oh, there's no pouch. See, I told you. They think that they're in charge of something, but they're really not in charge of anything. I mean, they mentioned that Gemma would come there and do sessions with them in the husbandry part of the tanks, and I'm just like, husbandry tanks, what is this? Like, what is going on? Is the experiments really on these goats, or are the goats just a smokescreen and the experiments are on the people?
That's so interesting, because there are a couple of easy and fascinating ways that you can look at this with that in mind. Like the name mammalian nurturable, for example, it's clear, okay, you're nurturing, you're caring for mammals. Well, guess what? Goats and humans are both mammals. Like it can be applicable to either one of them. Like the environment here for a second, thankfully, I don't visit a lot of companies that do this sort of stuff, but like they have set up this environment for these goats, which is, it's not ideal. They're not out living their lives in the wilderness or wherever goats are these days, but they're not locked up in these teeny tiny pens either. They've got them in this big open space where there's rolling hills and grass and people that are caring for them. And you can sort of view this in a couple of different ways. You could view this as, okay, they have the goats designed to live in this environment because they're trying maybe to simulate what's going on with the Annies, where they don't want the Annie humans to think that, oh, your lives are miserable. You're not getting to do anything fun. We're giving you waffle parties. We're doing X, Y, and Z, though you are still locked inside. So they may be trying to create a similar environment with that, because if they just have all the goats confined to like tiny cells or whatever, maybe you're not going to get an accurate reflection of things.
Yeah, you're going to have a lot of unhappy goats.
Yeah. Or if you want to go down, though, your line of thinking here that the humans are actually the test subjects, then it starts to become, okay, well, then you want the humans to feel like you're in control, but you also want these humans to feel like they're doing something good. I don't think the vast majority of us people are not going to feel good about going and caring for just like goats that are trapped in some like really terrible small amount of space. Like, I think most of us, we love goats. Maybe we don't all love goats enough to let them into our house and chew up our furniture, but we all love goats.
Have at my couch. I'm completely fine with it. Listen, I can't be, I'd be just a complete hypocrite. I've got a rabbit, like I said, who has eaten a hole through the back of my bed. I can't be like, I'll take a rabbit, you can eat my house to dust, but not a goat. Goats are just so cute.
They are very cute.
I just think that it's gotta be that the experiments are the humans, but they have to feel like they're important and they're doing a good job nurturing these goats. You got a guy who's dressed up as a goat, trying to like really like learn about goats, sit on the hill, be one with the goats. I'm just like, okay, this whole place feels ridiculous. You're in there, like the way that they're acting, it feels ridiculous. But at the same time, it's like, if you're not cloning and that's not really what's going on, then what's really the purpose of the goats? Why are then the humans protecting this as much as they are? What is the husbandry tank? Why are they asking to see if Helly and Mark have pouches? Like, what? Something is going on here where this feels like it's a smokescreen. The goats are not important. The people are important. They're trying to give them purpose,
Yeah.
feel good about what they're doing, feel like they're doing
Yeah.
research, they're getting ahead, they're feeling good about themselves. Yeah, they're a little more disheveled than, say, people in macro data refinement.
Yeah.
But they're working with goats. So, I mean, it's going to be what it's going to be, right?
Yeah. Well, let's get into kind of the potentially really darker sides of some of this, because there's some really twisted stuff going on here, right? Like, you've got Goat Man in the goat costume, and
Yep.
you know, if the humans are the experiments, then do we go as so far as to say that, like, is this person been like injected with part goat personality to sort of see a little bit of what that is like? I mean, none of these people are acting purely normal. I mean, we mentioned
No.
this in the review. I mean, Gwendolyn Christie's character, who seems to be the leader, she's using words like fripperies, who most
Mhm.
people these days don't use. Maybe that's because of Kier juice. Maybe that's because of something else. But then we get into what you're talking about with the bellies and the pouches, which is very weird because that's kind of indicative of marsupials, who are a type of mammal, but they're like kangaroos.
They're not goats.
No, they're things that have, they nurture. There's that word again. They
Yeah.
nurture their young in their pouches. And I mean, this is going to sound really, really weird. Like, I'm well aware of that. But do some of these people have pouches? Like, have they given them kangaroo DNA or something?
Yeah, I was starting to kind of wonder that as well. If we're having like sort of this mix of people and different mammals and different things, almost kind of like I'm watching through the Alien movies right now.
Yeah.
So anyone who's seen those, it's like you have the face hugger is like implanting a human, and then you get this alien that's kind of part of everything. It's so weird, but like, is that happening over here as well?
It's something we have to, at the very least, consider, just because there's something clearly very off about a lot of these people, the way they talk, the way they're relating
Yeah.
to everyone else. It's sort of as though they are all human, but they are a different type of human, or a different type of any than everyone else out. I mean, do we then question, okay, do they have outies? Like, what's going on necessarily with them? Because we've never really seen these people before. So clearly they are very, very isolated from the rest of the group.
Yeah, I don't think they do. I think that they are permanently severed, that they are just here on the goat floor, and
Yeah.
they are the experiment of what happens when you do permanently sever somebody. Are they still going to be sort of functioning as a person? Are they going to end up, hiding as a goat?
Yeah.
Like, are they going to kind of fall apart? I think the bigger overall experiment is, how do we sever everybody permanently and still have them function like a Mark S and not like Goat Man? How do we get that? How do we get from here to here?
Yeah, how do we get exactly what we want out of these people while still claiming to some extent that they're quote unquote people? Like,
Right.
that's the real central struggle here. And I would say the one more bit of evidence here to your theory that I hadn't thought about until literally we're in the midst of recording this video is just the idea that we saw some goats go rogue in season 1. And we see that clearly they have a goat escape door that some of them have done some stuff in, that Mark and Helly crawled through.
Yeah.
So it's clearly like, okay, these goats can kind of get away. So it feels like they're not necessarily being that protective of, okay, we need to make sure that these goats are in here every single second of the day. It's like, if they were the most important thing, wouldn't you be treating them like they're Fort Knox or something?
Yeah, I just don't think that they are the most important thing. I think they're there to make the people feel important. I will say that it is really weird, though,
Yeah.
that they did ask about the bellies. And then I was really half expecting Mark to turn around and be like, show me your belly. Like,
Yeah.
why would you be asking me this? This is a weird question. I now need to see yours. I would have asked that.
I think that's the frustrating part about this storyline in particular. It's like, we're so close to getting an answer and yet so far away, because Mark didn't ask that for whatever reason. I don't know. Maybe he's afraid of losing their trust or something, though he doesn't really have it.
Maybe he's afraid to actually learn that they have pouches.
Uh,
Because what do you do with that information then, right?
I don't know. That's a very, very good question. I think we are going to get answers to the goats definitively at some point over the course of
Mm-hmm.
Severance, but unlike a few other things on this show, like, you know, we've talked about the balloons, we've talked about Cold Harbor. I think
Yep.
there's probably a better chance we're going to get answers on those quicker, mostly just because of the fact that I know that the producers love to do weird, quirky things. And while there's a purpose for these goats, I think they're going to drag it out because it's iconic and memorable visually for the show. And I don't think they're going to want to wrap this up too soon.
The visuals of that room with the rolling hills,
Yeah.
but having like the office walls and the fluorescence was so good.
Yeah, it's such a unique idea. It's a really unique sort of thought experiment if they're doing sort of what you've laid out here. So I actually really hope that they're doing that at this point. I just think that this is a really fascinating idea that the show is working with in terms of what is the experiment, who is the experiment on, and what is the ultimate gain of this experiment, because there's something going on here.
And what's a husbandry tank? It's so weird. Like, it feels like part of a breeding program almost. But then why would Gemma be using those to conduct these? I don't know. Like, is she only doing what she does with everyone else? One of the guys was like, oh, you know, my Audi loves Starlight or whatever. That obviously she's doing some of that there. But is she also doing other stuff there? It's just how much of Gemma's role is really just this, telling you the things that you like, and how much of it is she's doing something to them as well and programming them as well?
I think there's got to be an element of that, and that's why she's so important to the company and why Mark has to reprogram her so she can continue whatever it is that she is meant to do.
Yeah, because she's everywhere. Like, if she's not just with our main four and she's over here as well talking to them, then obviously she's very important for either gathering information or putting more information into people.
All right, well, that is what we have on the goats. Who doesn't love talking about the goats? But no, that's our theories. Thank you guys so much for watching with us. Hit that subscribe button because yes, we will have more Severance theories coming down the road, but then also reviews, reactions, all sorts of great stuff. You can support us further by joining our Patreon. That link is in the description. We are covering exclusively there, both Prime Target, which you can also watch on Apple TV Plus, and then also The Pit. We'll see you guys here next time.